What is up, everybody? It's Matthew Deary. Today I am checking in with a video kind of talking about what's in my drone kit, and particularly why I use an iPad as a monitor when I'm in flight. In the past I've used a cell phone, and within the past couple of years I bought an iPad mini because I really think that it enhances my drone game. And what better day to do it than when I'm taking my Part 107 recurrent test. Real quick, as I work my way through this edit, I thought it'd be fun to insert some of my favorite highlights from the past 2 years of being a certified drone pilot throughout the video, so stay tuned for that. I'm a little nervous before the test. The test isn't overly complicated, but if you fail it, you're out the $160 testing fee. Definitely a little nervous beforehand because...
Watch out for the bike one!
Oops, my bad.
Be really bad to fail, and even as a 2-year certified drone pilot, it kind of be embarrassing. So I will check back in after the test is over and let you know how I did.
It's over?
It's over.
Well, how did I do?
Woo! All right, I passed again. Strangely enough, I got the exact same score on my recurrent test as I got on the initial test that I passed. I definitely studied way less for the second test than I did for obviously passing my first one. So I was a little nervous. I was underprepared, but again, I got 85, and so you know there's definitely some room for more failure there. But passing my FAA license is current for another 2 years. So see you again in 2 years, airport. One thing that I will gripe about with the test is after you complete the test, you're obviously nervous and anxious to know the results. The first thing that they have you do after you complete the test is not see the results. They ask you a survey. They give you survey questions and they ask you how your test was, how easy it was to sign up for the test. Then you have to do that survey, shut down the station, and then go out and talk to the person who administered the test, for which then they get the results and they give them to you. And it's like, just tell me, did I pass the test or not?
Let's see, shall we? You can't park. You can't switch lanes. You can't make right-hand turns.
So I'm setting up now to be able to show you what's in my drone kit and be able to talk to you a little bit more about an iPad as a monitor. Initially I was filming with my phone, but it is so windy today. It's almost 20 miles an hour worth of wind. I actually had to set up my shotgun and my dead cat just to be able to have usable audio. I had to turn my car away from the wind, so I've had quite a bit of time MacGyvering just to get this stupid setup going, but all in all, I believe it was worth it. So one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is why I use an iPad as a monitor. The biggest and most obvious difference between the iPad and a phone is the size of the screen, and you can see comparing this iPhone 11 to the size of this iPad mini version 4 is obviously that screen size, and the math comes out to about 25% bigger. But when you're looking at the iPad compared to the size of the phone screen, it almost feels like the time when you first saw high definition. You've been looking at standard definition your whole life. Standard definition to high definition, the screen size is just so much bigger. There's something in the bottom right hand corner of the screen that I want to try and hide or kind of make sure that I avoid. And using the phone is obviously, it works, it's fine, but using the iPad is such an advantage, and I highly recommend anybody get an iPad for a monitor, especially if you're doing this commercially, you're getting paid for it, you're meeting up with clients. The iPad is a big difference maker. Aside from the size of the screen being able to see everything better, using the DJI interface is significantly easier with the bigger screen. You're not delicately tapping around the corners of the screen trying to change settings. It's just so much easier to navigate the functions of the app with a bigger screen. And lastly, in terms of the size of the screen, is when you have a bright sunny day like today. Using the phone, even when you have a sun hood, it's difficult to be able to really squint and see all of those details within the frame, where when you have an iPad, everything again is much larger. And a sun hood is something that, I mean, it's not on right now, but you need a sun hood if you're really going to be able to fly drones commercially and do it right. Holy smokes, can you hear this wind? I can barely hear myself think. So if you don't have a sun hood and you are flying drones, I highly recommend you log into your Amazon account right now and buy one. They're cheap and they're such a great tool to have in your kit. So like I mentioned, I use the iPad mini. One note, if you are going to go this route, make sure you buy the iPad mini 4. The first iPad mini I bought was the iPad mini 2, and with the Mavic 2 Pro, the GPU on the iPad mini 2 sometimes gets overloaded, and the DJI app actually tells you as much. And the worst time for it to really start lagging and slowing down is mid-flight. And this actually happened to me, and I learned the hard way when I was flying in San Antonio on a commercial gig, and the GPU froze mid-flight when I was kind of coming down, and the screen started lagging. It's almost like a slow internet connection, to the point where I didn't have command of the drone, and I freaked out a little bit, and I ended up nicking something and then crashing the drone.
Oh, should I write them a note?
Thankfully, the producer was super awesome about it. I felt like an idiot though.
You've damaged private property and you almost killed someone. Offhand, I'd say you failed.
Fail?
Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. So if you are going to go the iPad route, you have to make sure you get one with a fast enough GPU to be able to talk to your Mavic 2 Pro or better. You're using the Phantom 4 or an Inspire. You have to make sure you have an iPad equipped to handle the flights. So another great perk of having the iPad mini as a monitor to use for your controller is being able to have a mount like this one. I just found it online. It creates nice separation from your hands from the actual monitor itself. You can actually mount the iPad will fit in this real estate here, but then all of a sudden it's interfering with your ability to use the controls. And so being able to have this mount help you create that separation is such a game changer. The Phantom 4, the Phantom 4 obviously got it right. They have something similar to this where you're able to mount the iPad and have separation from the controller itself. But the Phantom 4 controller has such a larger footprint than the Mavic 2 Pro. And so the nice thing about this is that the Mavic 2 Pro controller breaks down nice and small, and so does this mount, and so it fits into my bag very nicely. So my last point is that the optics of having an iPad or something to this degree as a monitor, it makes a big difference to a client perception. If you're showing up for a commercial shoot and the client feels like their nephew could capture this video with a Target bought drone and somebody's just plugging their phone in, the iPad makes a difference in perception. And you know how the saying goes, perception is reality. And you want your client, even though the Mavic 2 Pro has fantastic optics with its 1-inch sensor, the drone itself is a little underwhelming in terms of the way that it looks and for commercial type work. It's not an Inspire 1 or 2 or even a Phantom. And so when you kind of have this type of drone with the small footprint, it is nice to kind of have something that looks a little bit more professional than, say, just plugging your phone into this small controller. Again, it might be silly, but I've had clients say to me in the past about the size of a DSLR camera compared to on the last shoot they used a Red, or attaching a matte box to the front of a camera makes it look like a cinema camera. And I've had clients before mention that, oh, we get the big camera today. And so partnering with anybody in commercial work, sometimes the perception of having something that looks a little more professional, aside from all the other added benefits, this just kind of makes you look like you know what you're doing, you're certified, you're insured, you know all these things, but sometimes this just kind of gives you a little bit better perception. And another small benefit of using an iPad is this is your plan A. The phone can be plan B. If something happens to the iPad, you always have the phone as a backup. So one of the first things you'll see when you open up my kit is a landing pad. Initially, I kind of thought that this was silly, but the more and more work I did, you realize that it actually is functional. This past spring, I went up north to northern Minnesota and hiked through the woods with National Geographic. Obviously no hard surfaces to land the drone on, so to create a nice barrier between the snow and the drone, this comes in handy. Next, you can see ND filters. If you don't have ND filters for your drone, you need ND filters for your drone. Another thing I always have in my bag is a Dji Osmo Pocket 4K. I bought this a while ago. It's just nice to have this as a backup in case you need any sort of like ground shots, and as well as it has a micro SD card in here as well. So if you run out of card space, maybe you forgot your card, there's always this extra in this slot, and so then that can kind of save you if you ever get into a pinch. And if you have the Osmo Pocket 4K, you gotta have ND filters. So thus concludes the tour of my drone bag, my drone kit. And as you can see with the Mavic 2 Pro, I like to have a bag with a small footprint and really be able to have something that's a little bit more nimble and mobile for shoots big and small. I actually went out to Colorado in the fall, and I hiked up the mountains and I got some great shots, but really being able to have a bag that wasn't gonna kill my back as I'm hiking and going through the thin air, having this drone was a big deal. Same thing for the National Geographic shoot. And so having a smaller, a drone kit with a smaller footprint is really kind of what I was going for as I built this out. Obviously it's not an Inspire where you have a huge package that you have to really roll out and bring all the accessories. And it's not a Phantom 4, which, you know, Phantom 4 comes with those big, heavy boxes. Not heavy, but those big boxes. Whereas all of my drone needs fit into this small backpack, which for me works. Another thing that I noticed as I worked my way through this edit is the camera actually shut off within 5 seconds of me finishing my close. So I guess I gotta do it again. So if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it 2 thumbs down. Most importantly, if you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's free, it helps the channel grow, and you get to follow me along on my video production journey. Today I get to celebrate passing my recurrency test. I'm good for 2 more years, but that is all I have for now. I will see you on the next one.